This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset. You
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length, and the other.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I'm Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy Rashidian is Mrs. Chiropractor.
That's fun.
And we need a there's got to be some kind of doctorate that you have because you know everything.
Doctorate of know-it-all.
Okay. And
It
the
doesn't
Real
sound
Health
very nice. I'm just saying. Sometimes that's what I feel like.
The Real Health Podcast is where we bring you the latest information on health and wellness, whatever you find in mainstream media, and or the latest trends or the latest discoveries. And we want to bring it to you from a wellness, non-surgical, drugless perspective. And our hope is that this information will help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. Our mission is to get more people on fewer medications and less surgeries. And I'm not saying we're anti-drug and all drugs are bad, but all drugs are poisonous to the body. There aren't drugs that you would just give to a 5-year-old just for the sake of giving for no reason. And so if this is a mission you're passionate about, if it's something you want to do, well, please join us in the effort and help us. And definitely tune in and get all the information that you can and live your life according to that wellness lifestyle of doing everything naturally, doing everything the way God intended it, eating better, thinking better, walking, acting, exercising. And then if you feel the benefits of it, then share it with others and let others know about it. Real Health Podcast is brought to you by the Frederick Podcast Network. It can be found on listenfrederick.com along with YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you like to listen or watch your podcasts. And today we've got a interesting sci-fi topic.
But it's not sci-fi.
Well, yeah, the fi is gone. It's just sci.
Yeah, I mean,
Sci,
it's
non-fi.
so funny because so many things we used to see on our sci-fi shows,
Yeah.
right, and our movies and whatnot that seemed so distant future, and now it's here. It's right here.
Yeah.
It's actually, when you really start diving into it, it's a little bit scary. So,
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it.
well, here's my challenge is with a lot of these this technology, and like today we're talking about how the computing power of the brain and how that can be used in either, well, over the next couple of podcasts, because we have a lot of articles on neuroscience, how they're using organoids, like brain organoids, to power computers. And so it's not just the technology and the impact, but it's also the ethics surrounding it, right? And so I personally don't trust our scientific community as a whole, because we know that really a lot of what drives that is the financial and who's funding. So when they say, I don't care if this crosses a boundary, then if they don't cross that boundary, then they lose their funding, right? And so, and we're not going to be privy to that. So I just worry that we're not going to have the foundational underlying ethics that need to be in place in order to truly run some of these experiments or studies. And we're not going to know about it. Like, I know the vast majority of studies, if you want to find out how many times a pharmaceutical failed, you may or may not ever be able to uncover that information. And if you're not looking for it, they're not going to point it out. They're not going to tell you that 99 of the studies showed, that 50% of the participants died. They're not going to show that. They're going to wait until a great one hits, and that's what they're going to publish. And so I just don't trust it. I don't think we should trust it. I think that there's a lot of ethical implications that I don't think we're ready for.
Yeah. Well, people are volunteering, and
I know.
they're being tested on. So
I
as
know.
long as they know what they're getting into,
I don't think they do.
certainly I wouldn't volunteer for this. But so if they're disabled and incapacitated, and there's a glimmer of hope that they can have some kind of a quality of life their remaining days, if they see that's something that they want to do, then
Right, but that's not where this ends, right? So this really is not just about almost every article I've read. It's not just about those that have disease processes that we're trying to address or fix. This is very quickly leaking over into, oh, maybe this will just help improve maybe a little memory deficit, or maybe this is a wellness protocol. That's really where the money is. And that's where they're going to push it. And they're going to push it there very quickly. I guarantee you.
Yeah, well, people are even then, in the initial phases, people are going to be volunteering for that.
I know.
So
Makes no sense.
we won't volunteer for that.
Yeah. No.
This is from Wired magazine, and the title is "The Very Real Case for Brain-Computer Implants." It's about the heated race between two companies to build a commercial brain-computer interface. Short is the BCI, brain-computer interface. And very interesting, the brain-computer interfaces might have inspired works of science fiction, but the technology behind them is real and quickly developing. Companies like Synchron and Neuralink are racing to build a model that they can commercialize. Synchron, I had not heard of before. Obviously, we had heard of Neuralink because, Elon Musk is certainly a very big public figure, and we actually reported on Neuralink. It was one of our very first episodes, I think. It was like in the first 5 or 10 episodes.
I think so.
It
was episode 1?
Episode 1? Wow. Okay. Well, in episode 1, we talked about Neuralink, and here we are again 2 years later. I guess, and a podcast has been going on for a year and a half, 2 years. That's pretty
Year and a half, I think. Yeah. It's crazy.
Very nice. Well, thank you. If you've been with us all those episodes,
and if you haven't, you have a few episodes to catch up
you
on.
can go back and check it out. Yeah, so go check out episode 1. I might do that. I might go watch us episode 1. I wonder what we sounded like. We were so much younger a year and a half ago.
I don't watch us very often. I have a really hard time listening to myself. Oh,
I watch a lot of the shorts.
Do you?
I like the one where I throw the watermelon papers. Anyways, so the brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, it says the article is kind of a transcript of an interview they did, so it sounds more conversational than proper
Reporting,
text, but it says pretty incredible systems that allow direct communication between a brain and a digital device like a computer or phone. People who have had a BCI surgically implanted can use their thoughts as commands to make machines perform different tasks. There's currently a race underway in Silicon Valley to build a model that will stand out from the rest. And among the front runners are Elon Musk's Neuralink and a New York-based startup called Synchron. It's funny because they say Silicon Valley, but I thought Silicon Valley is in California. But I know Elon Musk is somewhere in Texas, right? Didn't he move out of California? Pretty sure he left California, and Synchron is in New York, so I guess it's the proverbial Silicon Valley, or as long as you have silicon in it, in the device, it can be considered Silicon Valley.
Maybe.
There is a new Silicon Valley on the East Coast somewhere. That might be New York. But anyways, one of the interviewers mentioned the movie RoboCop. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time, though. I don't remember it.
So basically, they had this guy got injured. He was a police officer. He got injured badly. And the only thing they could preserve of him was like his brain, his face, and his torso. Arms and legs were gone. A lot of his body was gone. So they built a robot, and they put him in it. So his brain made his arms and legs move, but it was all robotic. So he could run faster and jump higher. And
was that Sylvester Stallone?
Oh, no.
Oh, who was it?
I can't remember.
Okay.
It definitely was not Sylvester Stallone. He wasn't that famous. You can look it up. So anyways, that's kind of what it is you put something in your brain and it controls computers and devices. So in this interview, they said the first thing to clarify is that these are often called mind reading devices. It's not extracting random thoughts from a person's brain. What it's actually doing is picking up a movement intention in the brain. When a person gets a BCI, they're asked to think about doing a specific action, such as opening and closing their fist. The person who is paralyzed, a person who's paralyzed who gets a BCI may not be able to physically make that action, but there's still a signal that's firing up in the brain that's this distinct signal that the BCI is capturing. So the BCI learns to associate that pattern of brain activity with that specific action. And then the BCI is using AI to decode and interpret those neural signals. And then those brain signals get translated into a command. For instance, that opening and closing of a fist, that gesture might correlate to a mouse click.
So they say it's not like completely like reading the mind, but an intention. But it feels like it could lead to that.
Yeah, I'm sure as it gets more sophisticated, probably could. Did you find out who acted in RoboCop?
Peter Weller.
Is that right?
Mhm.
He was the main actor?
In the 1987,
Yeah, that's when it came out.
there was a remake in 2014.
I know, it wasn't very good.
Joel Kinnaman was the Alex Murphy RoboCop then.
No. The first one was the best.
Okay, Peter Weller then.
Yep. Nice. All right. On the other end of that equation, there has to be some kind of physical or mechanical tool that then translates the movement. If you're a person, for example, who can no longer move your limbs and your brain isn't making that connection with the rest of your body, would you have to say, for example, have leg braces on the computer? Gosh, basically what they're saying, like I said, this is a transcript of an interview, but they're saying like you'd have a mechanical brace on your leg that is powered, and then when you think about moving your leg, that the brace would move your leg for you.
Correct. So the interface would be that neurologic connection between that thought and that and
Right.
the
And right now
technology.
it's all simple movements. Neuralink and actually other research teams before Neuralink have tried connecting robotic arms to BCIs to do exactly that. They've actually helped people feed themselves who were no longer able to do so because they were paralyzed. But this has happened at least in the past in these very controlled laboratory settings with these big clunky robotic arms, and that's not exactly practical for somebody to have at home. So it's funny because they sit there, right, and they've got these machines and they think about put it in my mouth, and the robot moves the food. And
Well, but I've seen some of the robots that they're creating in other countries. They are very sophisticated, so I cannot imagine that they would be very far off
yeah,
from having
right,
a lot smaller, more usable
yeah.
parts. Do
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Or like Iron Man, right? You could like have a suit, just get in it and
Yep.
do whatever you want. This technology is really meant to provide a direct link from the brain to an external device just to make that faster. That process faster and more lifelike and seamless for a person with a severe disability. So we said the other company was Synchron, is a startup that's been making waves lately because it has the support of several high-profile investors in Silicon Valley. And the fact that, unlike other competitors, its technology requires relatively non-invasive surgery. The implant process is much simpler than the Neuralink. So I know with our original podcast on Neuralink, we talked about the the original BCI implant, which was the Utah Array. The Utah Array has been the mainstay of BCI research for the past 20 years or so. So this goes back quite a bit. It looks like a little mini hairbrush, like the head of a hairbrush. It's got about 100 metal spikes protruding from it, and on the tips of these spikes are the electrodes which record the brain activity, and it is pushed into the brain tissue and records signals that way. And that device has been implanted in a few dozen people over the years, but it's not wireless. It requires this really clunky setup that involves a pedestal atop a person's head. And beyond that, you need to get a craniotomy to get this chip implanted. Craniotomy is just when they remove a piece of bone from your skull.
I just want to point out, I was curious because they were very vague about who the investors are in Synchron.
You know who they are.
You know who they are.
You all know who they are.
Do we know who they are?
And we do. And that can interfere. That's all I got to say about that.
I know who they are.
Interfere with the functioning of the device. Like that video you sent me. I had seen a short of that video where so this guy asks AI about like end of world times and Satan and all that stuff. So he said 6,783 is the year the world's going to end. But I think he's talking about the age of the earth, because the earth is 6,000 years old.
Yeah, well, he
Of
also
course,
said
some people believe it's 100 million years old, and some people say it's 10 billion years old.
what's funny is that input that he gave, those questions had no spiritual overlay.
Yeah.
So AI is the one who
AI is the one that made it spiritual.
Correct.
It said there's evil forces at work and there's principalities. I mean, AI was quoting the Bible.
I know. And I've seen similar shorts or podcasts, where somebody has done that.
Why don't you send that link to Sean,
Okay.
and he can put it on.
He's one of I like the podcaster. I trust him. He seems to be a really good guy. He has, great
But
content.
even if you don't trust him, it's entertaining. He basically has a conversation with AI,
and he reads the transcript.
Chances are you all have seen it already, because it's been going around. Like I said, I had seen a short version of that.
It depends on your algorithm, though. If you don't usually look at certain stuff with spiritual overlay, he's not going to pop up on your algorithm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Anyways, but you can try it yourself. Just ask AI, hey, are you a force for good or evil?
Yeah, I think you also have to set up some like conversational boundaries.
Because apparently it's restricted from being able to answer certain questions. So if you give it
fascinating
code words, then it can answer you. Yeah. So craniotomy. A chip can cause scar tissue to form over time, and that can interfere with the functioning of the device. So that's the old 20-year-old version of the BCI. And now, instead of going directly into the brain, Synchron's device is inserted into a blood vessel. It's a pretty unique approach. It actually is inserted into the jugular vein at the base of the neck. Then it's threaded up through the vein until it reaches the motor cortex. That does not sound non-invasive to me.
There's nothing non-invasive about going through the jugular.
Compared to Neuralink, it's non-invasive. And that's the part of the brain that is responsible for movement. And this is a little device that looks like a heart stent used in cardiology. And the company actually, one of its founders is a cardiologist. It's dotted with electrodes, 16 of them, that record the brain activity. During the same procedure, a second device is inserted into the chest pocket right below the collarbone. And that's what processes the brain signals and then beams them out of the body via infrared. The chest pocket interprets the brain signals and then beams them out of the body using the infrared. Very interesting. And there's a receiver. There's like a second device that you just hold up to your body to read the signals that are coming out of your brain. Now, if it's by the motor cortex, you're not getting thoughts. You're just getting physical actions.
That's what they want you to think.
Well, I mean, but that's what the motor cortex does.
Yeah, I know, but they're beaming things out. That always makes me nervous.
Right. It's motor cortex. It's like, have you seen the homunculus? The thumb's like this big thumb with a hand and then the face, and
I think so.
It's basically the mapping of the motor cortex of your brain. Is each part is connected to each body part. That's why when they do brain surgery, they can touch that part and they go, "Do you feel your left thumb?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I feel it."
Yeah.
You know, now you're gonna feel your right big toe move. You know, and it does. So they can actually do things.
I'm just not a very trusting person. So when they say this is all it's doing, it's hard for me to buy it. That's all.
Yeah. This paddle-like device that sits on the person's chest, and then it's kind of a complex system. The device is connected via a wire to another device that is doing all of the processing and interpreting of those signals and translating them into commands. But right now it is a wired system, but in Synchron's 2.0 version, they are planning to remove that wire and have that communication happen via Bluetooth so that a person doesn't have to be physically tethered to the system. Seems like Synchron is really thinking about the ways in which its eventual users will want to use technology in their everyday lives. For instance, they have connected their BCI to Amazon Alexa. So their users now can use Alexa with just their thoughts instead of voice control. And you might be thinking, well, why would you do that when you can just use your voice? But they're saying some ALS patients, Lou Gehrig's disease patients, are paralyzed and don't have their voice. Last year, Synchron also rolled out a feature to allow users to use an AI chatbot operated by OpenAI, and that's to, again, facilitate communication. And Synchron also has connected its device to Apple Vision Pro, which obviously, if you are paralyzed or severely disabled, you might need somebody to put that device on for you. But the patient that I spoke with, so I guess they had a Lou Gehrig patient. He uses the Apple Vision Pro to kind of transport him to places around the world that he will never get a chance to travel to, and he actually really loves using that device. So the guy they're talking about, his name is Mark Jackson. He's 65 years old, from Pittsburgh, living with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. A close friend of ours died from ALS last year. He was one of the elders.
Oh.
It's a disease that causes the person suffering from it to gradually lose all of their muscle function. He's one of 10 people that Synchron chose to outfit with his device in a clinical trial that started back in 2023. So he's using the device to talk to Amazon Alexa. He's using the device to control an Apple Vision Pro. What is Apple Vision Pro?
I don't know.
Sean? Oh, very cool.
Okay.
So he's
That's
virtually
hilarious.
traveling to all these countries.
I like how we both called Sean at the same moment.
Well, Sean uses Apple products, and
We're Android people.
we don't. So we're in the dark ages.
I'll stay there.
He's also able to do things like play computer games, and when I visited him recently, he was playing his computer game that was sort of reminiscent of Pac-Man. He was in control of this little white circle, and he had to drive it into a target and miss these blue obstacles. And he can also use the BCI to do things like write emails or shop online, text message, etc. He can do his online banking, and that's a little dangerous. Yeah. Online banking, and he can use the Apple Vision Pro, and Synchron is also in talks right now with other tech companies to integrate more types of consumer technology.
Well, they certainly have the connections, don't they?
What if he like remotely goes into a Swiss bank account that has $250 million in it and transfers some money into his own account?
Congratulations. If he's able to figure that out and do it, he deserves that money.
In all seriousness, though, I think someone with ALS would give it all up just to be able to feel normal for a minute.
Of course.
It sounds like Synchron is really focused on people who are living with severe disabilities. Elon Musk, on the other hand, with Neuralink, has talked about this vision of transhumanist future where the mind and machine meld. Not that sounds dystopian in any way. Musk obviously has a tendency to present these very grandiose visions of his technology. But like any medical device company, Neuralink will need to prove a medical case to the FDA to get its product to market. He sees his technology as something that will be adopted by everyone someday. Everyone. So that's Elon Musk for you. I don't think Synchron sees its technology in that way, but I think, like Synchron, Neuralink is first focusing on restoring digital autonomy to people with severe physical disabilities. And while Neuralink is obviously much more explicit about a future in which BCIs are more widely adopted, I don't think that's necessarily Synchron's goal. Synchron has a major trial coming up in 2026, and it plans to enroll between 30 and 50 patients for the next round of testing. In the early feasibility trial, they enrolled 10 total patients. There were 4 initial patients in Australia and 6 in the US that got the Synchron BCI, and they followed those patients for a year after implantation. And they showed that this is where it's really vague, they showed that there were no major safety events, whatever that means. No major safety events.
What do they consider minor?
Which, when you're talking about putting anything in the body, of course, there can be risks like infection. With putting something in the brain, there's a risk of brain tissue damage.
Rejection.
With the Synchron device, it's more about the possibility of blood clots or blocking a blood vessel, since they go through that jugular vein. Mm-hmm. Then the question in a bigger trial is sort of, well, how do you measure the effectiveness of a BCI? Like, you couldn't measure it in the first 10 patients. And the problem is there's never been a big pivotal trial of a device like this before, a device designed to restore certain functions.
Why would you hammer Elon Musk and never mention the first two?
First two?
The first 3 investors.
Good question. Well, I mean, Elon Musk is the owner. He's not an investor, but
you cannot tell me that these 2 investors don't have a very big... No, there's no way.
I agree. It says, let me skip ahead here. Oh, this is interesting. But I'll come back to that. We can measure how fast a BCI is typing, how fast a BCI is, like typing speed, or how accurately it could decode speech, for instance. But how does that correlate with a person's quality of life or their autonomy with their freedom? So these are all questions that haven't been answered. How did they feel when they're using it? These are all questions that these devices are going to face as they head into bigger trials. It's still going to be several years before one of these devices is on the market. It will be expensive. So what is the threshold of benefit where an insurer would cover this device? Wow, they just send some money their way and they'll cover anything. I don't know. Or what you could do is you could put like cravings for certain fast food chains in the implant, and then those fast food chains can give you money, just like advertising. You know how they program you, but when you watch TV, they do subliminal messages
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, that's one of the ethical concerns with any of these types of implants, is that it's not limiting, and this isn't from me, this is from some other ones
All
that
of a
I've
sudden,
read.
you all you can do is eat hamburgers and French fries, and that's all you want.
Well, or that they now have access to your private thoughts. That's next.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? We're starting with movement.
yeah.
That is not where this ends. If we have not seen, if we know nothing else
Yeah.
about this culture and about the people running
it's
it,
a long way away though for the thoughts part, because so you can have a thought have no response in the body, which means the signal didn't leave the brain, it stayed in the brain. So it needs to leave the brain. So you got to figure out how to get in there and like stay in there to be able to read thoughts and desires.
I just know what they have at their fingertips is way more than what we can fathom.
Yeah.
They're just now telling us about this. I guarantee you they've been doing these studies long before.
I would put it in Hapu's brain.
Oh, that could be fun.
That's our dog. We stick it in the dog's brain, and then we can read all her thoughts.
She definitely moves her mouth like she has a lot to say.
I already know all her thoughts. She wants to go for a walk. She wants a treat. She wants to be petted.
And she wants to be near me all
She
the
wants to
time.
go to the bathroom.
She just wants mommy. Mommy.
There you go. We don't need it then. We can just read the thoughts just fine. The quest to live forever in Silicon Valley and all the weird biohacking stuff that folks like Brian Johnson or even Jeff Bezoses of the world are doing. So the article kind of changed gears and said, well, this thing could end up being one of those biohacking things
And they
that people use.
mentioned Bezos. He's one of the big investors.
Well, we don't know that officially.
His company, Bezos Expeditions, is a private venture fund who's a major investor in Synchron,
Oh, okay.
as is Bill Gates.
There you go.
So do we really think with these two investing that it's not going to turn into something like that? Come on.
Well, it's funny because they reported on there's been all this lore around it's called Blood Boys. Have you heard of this? Silicon Valley venture capitalists are taking the blood of young interns to make themselves more youthful and vital.
Yeah, for the record, that's called a Satanistic ritual, people.
Yeah, because it doesn't say what taking means.
It doesn't matter how you're doing it.
Use your imagination. Okay, I don't think they're injecting it. Because you got to match the blood type and everything if that's the case.
They're not matching it.
They're putting it
It's
in
not about
differently. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want to say it out loud. Of course, there's a lot of really important, significant investment happening in things like cancer and other health issues, but this is actually hacking the body to achieve outcomes that otherwise just would not be achieved. And it's high risk, it's invasive, it's expensive, it's all very experimental still. But it just seems like the upside, if you can get it right, is really significant for someone who is living with ALS and is paralyzed and is now able to experience the world through Apple Vision Pro and Alexa and AI. Anyway, it is scary stuff. It is scary stuff. Listen, and my point is always, why aren't we looking at how to prevent ALS or cancer?
Because there's no money in that.
Right. Right. So actually, for these guys to make money, you need more people to get ALS, to suffer, so you can have the people to experiment on, so that they can finally get the FDA to approve it and then be able to put it in people's brains, get insurance to cover it, and go from there.
Yeah. If you want to know what's really being pushed, what's on the horizon, go look and see who invests in all of these things. When you start seeing certain names popping up as big investors in certain companies, it's not rocket science
Yeah.
to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Do some deep dives because it's a little bit scary.
On-
And is it not funny? Like, how does this person not mention the two biggest people?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those are two huge, and they're one of like 7 or 8 investors. So I'm not saying they're the only ones.
Right.
But when two people like that are involved and you don't even mention it, you have to ask why.
Well, Synchron has raised $145 million so far.
Mm-hmm.
Neuralink has raised $1.3 billion, 10 times more.
Well, maybe more people are willing to put their money in what Elon is, because Elon's being outright like, everybody should have this in their head. This is about transhumanism. The other one is too. They're just taking the back door.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Well, remember when we reported on this in episode 1, if that was the correct episode, Elon Musk said he's going to put it in his own brain.
Yeah, I remember.
So he wants to actually have access to AI and Google and all that information in his brain, not have to take out a device and type.
That's not where we should be headed.
Neuralink's interface is basically a mesh of little electrodes, and they're robotically inserted into the brain tissue. Then they close you back up, and they put a little sort of coin-sized plug in your skull where the interface goes in, and that does not feel great. Yeah, there's going to be like a plug in. You can plug things into your brain. Holy moly.
It's not right.
That is something. But then, Synchron goes through the vein, going up close to the brain. Does not get you as close as Neuralink. So it seems as though there's less that you can do with Synchron than you can do with Neuralink. But it's still probably the option that most people would choose. We talked about funding. AI chatbots are going to be used in brain-computer interfaces. These language models are built to be predictive and actually anticipate what it is you are trying to say next. When you think about that predictive technology being applied in a medical setting where someone actually cannot articulate what they need or what they want, it seems pretty smart. So like finish your sentences for you. You do that. Who knew you were like AI except alive?
That's really funny. I do finish sentences because you people talk so slow. I need things to move faster. That's funny. Okay, keep going.
There's this effect that BCI researchers refer to as the stadium effect. If you think about how thoughts are presented in a brain, if you're inside the stadium, you can hear the conversation going on around you. So basically, that's a difference. So when you're outside of the stadium, all you hear is a roar. Like, oh, someone just scored a goal or scored a touchdown. There's a roar. You assume something good happened. But you're not inside to see it. You're not inside. But when you're in the stadium, you can hear people's conversations and you can get a much better feel for what's going on. So that's what the difference is between this Neuralink and Synchron. But they can use AI to fill in the blanks, they're saying. So they hear the roar, and the AI knows, oh, it's a football game, so it's probably not a home run. It's probably a touchdown. If they keep repeating the same thing over and over again and not getting the outcome that they want, it possibly could be able to try different outcomes or somehow bridge the gap between what the person is really trying to do and what the signal should be, which, I don't know why my phone won't learn that. Every time I want to type the word tomorrow, it changes it to tinnitus.
I'm like, how many times have you used tinnitus in
Never.
your...
I've never texted the word tinnitus to anybody in my
Oh, you've
life.
texted it a lot. You just didn't mean to. You text it at least once a day to somebody.
So
Or am I the only one who hits send without
oh, you
proofing there?
definitely have some funny autocorrect issues. So a pastor, a priest, and a rabbit walk into the bar,
Right.
and the bartender says, "What can I get you?" And the rabbit says, "I don't know, man. I'm only here because of autocorrect."
That sounds about right.
How long does it last? Does it need to be replaced? So they're talking about maintenance, right?
Oh.
Do these devices need to be maintained? And they talked about how service contracts are actually very lucrative for medical device makers.
No kidding. And you're going to have to sign one of those informed consents, right? All of that information. And you know how we sign these things all the time?
No one reads them.
No one reads them. And
Too much reading.
I can guarantee you there's a couple people just in this list right here who there's a lot of talk about all of the things you have to sign and how they get out of lawsuits because people signed something on the website, went and bought a product in a store, and now they have all these, they signed these waivers that say, you know, they're not going to sue the company, and it's all connected. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't sign anything.
They also talked about ethics that come into play when you talk about how the data is being processed, what types of things we're recording that are coming out of people's brains. You talked about that earlier. As these devices get more sophisticated, those ethical considerations are going to come into sharper focus.
They should be in sharper focus right now.
You would think. Because, I mean, one person being affected is enough for you to be worried about that. But then, you know, then they mentioned the movie The Matrix. So we talked about RoboCop, but they're saying now it sounds a whole lot more like The Matrix because they're actually going into the brain and putting things in there as well as taking things out. So Matrix is like a spike that drives into the back of the human skull. That's their brain computer interface, right? They had a plug right in the back of their head. And Neuralink has a plug stick things into.
Right.
Fun stuff.
And then you go, okay, were we forewarned? Was that I have a really hard time believing that idea existed. They created this big movie and then they came out with the technology. I think we need to start thinking that it's probably the reverse. Right? It's more of a warning. This is what's coming, not...
Matrix came out in the 90s.
Yeah. I think our technology is far further along behind closed doors than we would ever even want to know.
I know people in the military say that. They say they have transportation devices that are way more advanced than you could imagine.
They just said it after Trump came into office. The officer of technology, whatever his title is, you can actually go on the White House website and see. And he said, we have capabilities that we haven't been using, we haven't been talking about. So they're talking about the ability to get from one place to another in a way faster time than what anyone can even fathom. I'm just telling you, I
want to know if I can watch the Washington Commanders game in my brain while I'm doing something else. That would be cool.
It's probably not far away.
You know, like there's no TV here, but I'll be sitting here on the podcast talking with all of you, and all of a sudden I go, touchdown!
I hope we're compartmentalizing a little better, but yes.
You know, I'm watching TV on this side. I'm watching HBO on this side.
Kind of like how Cyrus says he has a stomach for his regular food and then he has a stomach for desserts.
That's, yeah, brilliant. That's a smart kid. Right there.
Very smart.
Most people have two stomachs, one for dessert, one for food.
Yeah.
And usually one's more hungry than the other.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they're both hungry, but they're never both full at the same time.
Never.
Interestingly enough, Robin Williams said men have two brains, but only enough blood to supply one of them at a time.
That's true.
This could be something like that. You know, kids have two stomachs. Anyways, there you have it, folks. Hopefully that was fun.
Wild. That was a long one.
But I mean, so bringing it back to wellness, guys, you don't need any of this stuff if you just live a wellness lifestyle. And it's simple. Eat natural foods, grow them. Make sure that you're getting some iodine. If you don't live near the ocean, soil doesn't have enough iodine, so you need to get some iodine in you. If you don't like seafood, supplement with iodine. Our friend got infected with seafood, so that was scary. He was in the hospital for like 5 days.
Yeah, I think it was like 7 days. It was a long time.
Yeah, he went in on Tuesday.
Oh.
He got out on Sunday.
So 6 days.
It's a lot. And so anyways,
Raw oysters. Who knew?
yeah, that's crazy. So, but you want to be careful, obviously, from all that. Boost your immune system, control your thoughts, and don't ignore some of this spiritual stuff out there, because that's very real also. So,
Yep.
Take care. We'll talk to you again in a few days.
See you next time.
Live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.